Okay, fair use. My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. It's a good time to watch this again. I thought they'd taken it down, but they haven't. There are some wrinkles here. It's fascinating. If you focus on this too much, it can make you depressed. So there is a kind of a sort of a trigger warning. There's stuff we can do. There are too many things out there that are in play. The subject of my channel is that be prepared for virtually anything. That's what my channel header says, or whatever the hell the channel trailer says. Be prepared for whatever. And so the last couple of weeks is an indication of what that looks like. Where we are now, this characterization that you see in this video, you may have seen it already. I'm going to play it again because it's fascinating, and it's fair use because it's news in the sense that this is what's happening now, but there's a characterization here that kind of needs to be unraveled a little bit. So what we're going to be looking at in the next, I don't know, years, decades, whatever, is going to probably look a little bit more like a 1950s into the world sci-fi movie than anything else. And a real quick aside, I used to think, it used to annoy me. I would say, well, how is it that some rich person is going to just carve out a little more for themselves and during the end of the world? Would they really do that? Blah, blah. And so the last 6-8 years has basically shown us, oh yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. The shit that just really is annoying. People lose their marbles. They do inane ass backwards bullshit when the shit's really hitting the fan. Lost in space. Oh, I left the dog in the fucking near the volcano. What? Now you got to go back and get the fucking dog when you were in the clear. Oh my God, I left Fifi. Yeah, dumb shit happens all the time. So it's time to wise up and fix some stuff. Anyway, let's watch.
And joining us now in studio is Richard Westbrook, Deputy Assistant Administrator of the EPA. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Westbrook, you've spent most of your professional career as a climate scientist in the public sector.
Yes, 10 years as a supervisory management analyst in the Office of Environmental Information. And before that, I was a program specialist in the EPA's Resource Management Division.
And you have a PhD in climate science from Stanford.
Yes, and another in chemistry with a master's in biology.
Okay. Tell us about the findings in the report that was just released.
The latest measurements taken at Mauna Loa in Hawaii indicate a CO2 level of 400 parts per million.
Just so we know what we're talking about, if you were a doctor and we were the patient, what's your prognosis? 1,000 years, 2,000 years?
A person has already been born who will die due to catastrophic failure of the planet.
What did he just say?
Okay, can you expand on that?
Sure. The last time there was this much CO2 in the air, the oceans were 80 feet higher than they are now. Two things you should know. Half the world's population lives within 120 miles of an ocean.
And the other?
Humans can't breathe underwater.
You're saying the situation's dire.
Not exactly. Your house is burning to the ground, the situation's dire. Your house has already burned to the ground. Situation's over.
So what can we do to reverse this?
Well, there's a lot we could do.
Good.
If it were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, but now, no.
Can you make an analogy that might help us understand?
Sure. It's as if you're sitting in your car, in your garage, with the engine running and the door closed, and you've slipped into unconsciousness, and that's it.
What if someone comes and opens the door?
You're already dead.
What if the person got there in time?
You'd be saved.
Okay. So now what's the CO2 equivalent of the getting there on time?
Shutting off the car 20 years ago.
You sound like you're saying it's hopeless.
Yeah.
Is that the administration's position or yours?
There isn't a position on this any more than there's a position on the temperature at which water boils.
The administration, your administration.
And don't forget, I need you to stretch
wind and solar,
40.
clean coal, nuclear power, raising fuel economy standards, and building a more efficient electrical grid.
Yes.
And?
That would have been great.
Let's see if we can't find a better spin. People are starting their weekends. The report says we can release 565 more gigatons of CO2 without the effects being
It
calamitous.
says we can only release 565 gigatons.
So what if we only release 564?
Well, then we would have a reasonable shot at some form of dystopian post-apocalyptic life. But the carbon dioxide in the oil that we've already leased is 2,795 gigatons. So,
What would all this look like?
well, mass migrations, food and water shortages, spread of deadly disease, endless wildfires, way too many to keep under control, and storms that have the power to level cities, blacken out the sky, and create permanent darkness.
Are you going to get in trouble for saying this publicly?
Who cares?
Mr. Westbrook, we want to inform people, but we don't want to alarm them. Can you give us a reason to be optimistic?
Well, that's the thing, Will. Americans are optimistic by nature. And if we face this problem head on, if we listen to our best scientists and act decisively and passionately, I still don't see any way we can survive.
Okay. Richard Westbrook, Deputy Assistant Administrator of the EPA. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is Newsnight. We'll be back right after this.
So that's comedy. Okay? This is a comedy piece. It's important to reiterate that. So how much of that is true? I mean, let's see, underpaid flood insurance. Yeah. I mean, when you're going through it, deep dive into climate disasters. So the shit we've been going through between Florida and North Carolina and Kentucky and Tennessee, and this is what I've got up here. Let's see, Asheville. What you really want to focus in on is, you can look at the footage, but this is the mayor of Asheville. What you want to look at is right here, in her eyes. That's where you want to look. Oh, this guy up here's bleeding. Port worker strike turns... Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Port worker strike turns violent. Somebody got busted in the face. Jeez. All right. Well, war in Russia's going on. There's another tropical... By the way, there's another tropical disturbance. There's a little X here. And that is 20 minutes ago? Yeah. Without running the video, you can see that... It's impossible. I would like to get sort of an overview of...
There are other large organizations that are coordinating to provide...
Between Florida and... Because this looks like Florida here. We've seen hurricanes before. So what was Hurricane Ivan? I mean, so like over the past 10 years since... I made a video. Probably... It was actually during Irma. When Irma passed over, it's the last time that I played this thing. Is that it? The Newsroom. That's the last time I played this one on one of my videos. But it needs to be talked about because, it's out there. You can watch it on YouTube. So they got a little box up here that says, you can buy it. You can watch with Max. It's on YouTube. And we just watched it. This is, you may know it. Many of you may know it, but this is a often watched, has been watched many times. This got 2 years ago because they took it down. And so some of that may have to do with the producers. And I'm here to say it's fair use because this is a topic of our hour, and so many people have watched this video.
Of the getting there on time.
So when you go through something and your power's still out, and he's talking about darkness, big superstorms. This storm had like a width of 1,000 miles or something like that. The storm that just came through. Helene. This guy here. This cat is Peter Kalmus. Is from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They got a lot of climate change dudes over at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Stephen...
No, it's Charles.
Miller, I think, is the guy that I had on one of my videos 10 years ago or something. And then you had, that would be, well, James Unlock, James Hansen. Come on. Oh, they don't even have him on here. Shit. Lovelock. Yeah, okay. Prophet of Climate Doom. Oh, shit. Michael Mann, of course. You know, every time there's a big fire somewhere, Michael Mann's coming out hawking a book. You know? Come on. They don't even have, he's like been erased. McPherson. Guy McPherson. Guy McPherson. Humans extinct by 2026. 2 years from now. So then he started talking about, well, maybe dirty old coal's our friend. And I'm like, nah, probably not. Don't know what's up with that. Forums, nature bats last. That's his thing. He doesn't allow comments on his videos anymore. And I'm like, well, okay. You know. And so the whole thing is like they don't want you to fucking they want to keep the population out of despair. If you ever watched Don't Look Up. This is a movie that I watch every once in a while. It's like Twister or something. I enjoy watching this movie so much. I have to apologize to Leonardo DiCaprio on a regular basis because I think it was the one where the first time that I ever showed this clip on one of my videos, I was talking about, Leonardo DiCaprio is sort of passionate about climate change. And so what this whole movie is about is he's like, look, we had an answer, but some billionaire came along and fucking wrecked the planet with the idea that they could profit off of it. And that's exactly what happened with us. There we go. Took a little while to get here, but I want to just show this is relevant. So this is total column. The guy said 400 parts per million. That was a while ago. That's like, that thing was from 2014, 10 years ago. This guy here. This cat. This show. This aired like 10 years ago, 2014, something like that. And the problem is that for the uninitiated, and it happened to me, I'm here to tell you, and add a little AI spooky fucking, AI spooky images on there of fucking eyeless ape people showing selfies of themselves in the end of the world and stuff, and you're ready to fucking, it's existential dread. So we're not doing that here. I just want to emphasize that. We're not doing that here. We're going to touch this fucking thing so that we can kind of get through to the other side. I'm going to explain to you why in a second here. Because they use fear has been used forever and ever to sell products, to separate people from their money. Okay? So don't look up. Making solar panels blew up the amount of CO2 that's in the atmosphere. It went from 0 to 60, and I did a video back in 2019, 1,000 parts per million. This is at the 50 hectopascal level. You can see it right there. This video, I put this up 4 years ago. So I was like, this is called, the other shoe just dropped, right? Because there's this little band of 1,000 parts per million CO2 at 50 hectopascals. So 50 hectopascals is in the stratosphere. It's about 67,000 feet, roughly. Okay? This is where it was then, and I'm like, oh, that's it. The shoe just dropped, and it's just little band right here. And now it's wall to wall. And they say, oh, it's 600 parts per million. Yeah, bullshit. That just means that it's saturated at 600 parts per million. We have no idea. We have no fucking clue how much CO2 is really up there. They're saying, well, it's a red light. It's like your engine light's on in your car. You don't know why. Yeah, you get the heat. It's an idiot light. It's an idiot light in your car. It says overheat, but you don't know what the temperature actually is. You don't know if it's 1,000 degrees or if it's, just over the limit, right? So they could amplify that a little bit. But I'm not. And listen, I am not bitching about Copernicus. I mean, this is amazing shit that they're doing. I'm a fan. Let me clear that away. I'm a fan. I love these fucking people. This stuff here, they go to great pains to make sure that what they're showing you is accurate, because people fucking kill themselves over this shit. And don't do that. Don't do that. Don't fucking do that. We live on a planet. You know, we've been through worse. This planet's been through worse. The Permian Triassic, forget about it, man. That was a bad deal. You know, we had, I think it was an asteroid hit one side of the planet, and then there was a ripple that went around the crust of the Earth and popped the other side, which is the Siberian steppes, like a zit, and just like the pH of the oceans was like that of lemon juice. You know what I mean? And so 96% of the life in the sea died. I've got another video on here about oxygen produced at deep ocean vents. That may be why that some of that life survived, because the ocean may actually produce a certain amount of oxygen. So, but this is 300 parts per million. This is at 30,000 feet, wall to wall, pole to pole, boom, bam, see ya. Right? 500 hectopascals. See what it looks like now. We're in October already. This had looked better in September because you've got a little bit of precipitation. You've got plants up, the forests up there consuming that CO2 because they got more sunlight. So this, kind of sort of waxes and wanes. But there it is. 500. That's 18,000 feet. And they're just telling you it's saturated at 600 parts per million, right? So 8,500 hectopascals. A hectopascal is a millibar. A bar is about an atmosphere. And so what you're looking at, and this is another way of thinking about this, a millibar is a thousandth of the pressure of the atmosphere, essentially, because the atmosphere is about, the total atmospheric pressure at the surface is about 1 bar, right around 1 bar. So you're slicing the pressure of the atmosphere into thousandths, right? So why the geopotential height is measured at 500 hectopascals, because that's 500 millibars is right in the middle. That's because pressure is based on the density of air, right? You do the math, and it's all about your calculus. What you're doing is you're going up. You reach 500 hectopascals. That's basically the center of mass of the air column. And it's fucking wall to wall, except at the surface. This is where the CO2 is being consumed. Over the sea surface, because you're going to have rain, you're going to have mist, and all that stuff. Cool water pulls, CO2 is very soluble. Methane is not. So methane goes right for the stratosphere. I don't even want to look at methane right now. But, some of that may have been released. Methane's got issues. I've said on this channel that it looked to me like we might have had a methane pulse coming from the Arctic. And Dr. Miller, those many years ago, was saying that the temperature at depth, and we're talking about 150 meters, like 300 feet down, was hot, was warm because of biotic activity down there, because the microbes had started eating the permafrost, and so that biotic activity produces heat, and the dirt, the frozen tundra acts as an insulator, holds it in. So there's a feedback process there, and that produces methane. So it's a feedback that produces more methane. It's anaerobic activities produce methane. Aerobic activity produces CO2. Okay, so this is at the surface, and so these are probably this is total column. So this kind of shows you where your usual suspects are. Of course, the oil-producing areas are going to produce a lot of methane. This is 850 hectopascals. Probably should have done surface level. And, it's 2,484 parts per billion, which is 2.48 parts per million. We got to do a little jaunt down memory lane here so we can see what's going on. And it's the, usual suspects. Although you will notice that this is surface level, that across Russia, there's a lot of, in the summertime, they have lakes and swamps and stuff like that are going to let off a certain amount. Wetlands, and, for a long time now, wetlands and rice fields in India and China were the big perpetrators of methane release. But because of oil production and fracking in particular, that's when methane started to climb back in 2006, was the prevalence of fracking. So that's where a lot of it probably comes from. They do fracking in China, by the way. China has shale deposits that are as big as the Green River shale deposits in Green River, which are enormous. And they've been harvesting that. Their shale, their oil shale in China has been harvested since the 1920s. They used to just go down, dig it up, and then squeeze the oil out of it, and that's where they got their oil from. So those reserves are pretty sizable, something that people don't really talk about. So there's plenty to frack in China, and they're probably doing it. There's the oil and gas reserves all over Southeast Asia. So, and this is the surface level, and over the surface of the ocean, a lot of that may be coming from seaweed, overgrowth of seaweed, big ag, you get a certain amount of nutrient over-nutrification of the oceans, and that is expressed as overgrowth of seaweed. There's other videos I can show you, just one of Vice, of the people that smoke frog juice down here, DMT, down in Mexico, down here in the beaches. An ancillary shot showed these giant piles of seaweed on the beach. Sargasso seaweed overgrows like hell, and so when it dies off, you get methane. I had made a mistake in a previous video. I was referring to it as dimethyl sulfate, and it's not. It's dimethyl sulfide, a volatile organic compound that smells like cabbage or cooked asparagus. DMS produced when bacteria break down dimethyl sulfone eopropionate, a chemical that protects phytoplankton and bacteria in salty environments. DMS is found in the upper ocean around the world. So hydrogen sulfide, so this is something that people were talking about, that they thought because of climate change that there was going to be an over expression of hydrogen sulfide, which was going to kill the oceans, and that because the oceans were going to become anoxic, the anoxic oceans were going to kill us. Bromophenols, pheromones, so all of these contribute to the smell of the ocean, but the big player is dimethyl sulfide. Now, the reason I say why that's an issue is because of the dimethyl. Methyl meaning methane. By the way, surface level, that shows you where it's coming from. You can pinpoint basically where the emitters are. On the surface level, this green bit here that you see over the surface of the ocean, I was wondering how much of that might be from the smell of the ocean, from those processes. So anyway, that's that. That's at 500 hectopascals, about 18,000 feet, and that's, you're getting a little collection there. 18,000 feet, so it's in the clouds. 30,000 feet, roughly 300 hectopascals, 300 millibars, and that's still quite a bit. And then you get to 50 hectopascals, 67,000 feet roughly, and you'll notice that it's all gone from up, and the upper reaches. This black is zero. See this legend here, zero is black. So in the Antarctic, it's devoid, and this is, it's different as the seasons change. in the northern and southern hemispheres. So there you go. There's not as much in the poles, but they're right in the middle, right across the equator. You can see a little band there. And this actually looks better than it has in a while. But there you are. There's that. That's kind of sort of the state that we are there. Okay, let's see if I have this way back then. Here we go. There you go. That's methane. And this is methane at 50 hectopascals 4 years ago. Right? See, that's all black. The Antarctic is devoid of methane. When this was put out, here, let me do this more. October 31st. Yeah. 2019. So it was almost 5 years ago. And that's what I'm saying. Now, the other shoe just dropped. And I'm like, well, the shoe is plowing its way through the ground at this point. It's plowing its way through the floor or the ceiling, however you want to say it. So that's what it looked like then. Let me see if I can open this up a little bit. That's what it looked like then. And then this is what it looks like now. So, and so what this says is that methane does not accumulate in the stratosphere. Carbon dioxide is. And so just to reiterate, methane acts as a reaction body. This is how ozone is formulated. If you take a jar of air with no volatile organic compounds in it and do what you want with it, leave it in there for 1,000 years, and you're never going to detect any ozone. I mean, maybe super teeny tiny traces, maybe. All right. Provided that the jar doesn't have any, rubberized, anything evolving off of a rubberized closure, right? That it's sealed with something that is, that it's a glass ampule of air. You're not going to really see you're not really going to see much in there. I mean, maybe if it's irradiated with super powerful UV radiation or something, maybe, right? Spritz a little bit of a volatile organic compound in there. Next thing you know, bada boom, ching bang, you got ozone. So the methane produces ozone, and that same ozone eats it up, eats up the methane, and you end up with carbon dioxide and water vapor. So what we have here is a footprint for methane depositing carbon dioxide and water vapor into the stratosphere. And that's important because greenhouse gas in the stratosphere causes global cooling. I keep saying that. It's important to keep reiterating that. All right, today's weather maps. I use these guys because they're just really simple. It's a nice tight. Right, so what is this? Average 2 meter temperature. Wow, look at all that. So it's zero up here in the Tibetan Plateau and across Mongolia. It's only October. It's already they're freezing their nuts off out there. Out here in Siberia, it's already 10 degrees below zero. It's already fucking dead. It's already 10 degrees below zero. But look at how the temperature is elevated over here. Oh, look at this shit. Temperature is still elevated right above Alaska. And it's because there's still some water there. So, and I keep hearing people say, well, it's ice-free even, year-round. And I'm like, come on. It's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Sure. But, yeah, 10 degrees already. But let's look at the temperature anomaly, right? 2 meter temperature anomaly. That's 2 meters above the ground, above the surface. It's a better way to say it. So, yeah, it's anomalously a little higher. Usually, the Congo area is anomalously cooler lately. And you can see that this is not, you know, the white is nominal. Right here in the middle of Brazil, it's anomalously cooler, but we're already out of El Nino into La Nina, which is not good for us in the United States. And people are complaining about, and you don't blame them, you know, catastrophic weather sucks. Not having any power when it's humid sucks. You look at the background here, everybody's power. My neighbors, I think their power just came on yesterday, maybe. You know, we were blessed that our power came on. It wasn't off that long. But, you know, when you live in a humid environment and your power goes out, it really sucks. And especially if you can't get water, and you get a little taste of Armageddon, and it really blows. So Americans, you know, we're all very America focused, but this shit has been going on. Disastrous flooding around the world. America's flooding in the Department of Blah, worst in the world. Wow, 1938, Yellow River flood. No, that's before they had any flood control. Before we had any flood control, by the way, before we had any flood control, people in the United States, we had people dying in Florida before they put dikes up around Lake Okeechobee and stuff. Before we had flood control in Florida, we had lots of people get killed from floods. A lot more. So the flood of 1099, Netherlands, England, up to 100,000 people. Holy shit. St. Lucia's flood storm surge, Holy Roman Empire, 50 to 80,000. Okay, so a little perspectivizer here. Before we had flood control, you know, the shit was on. 1935, 145,000. The Yangtze flood in China. 400 to 893,000 dead people in 1938 from the Yellow River flood in China. That's a list of deadliest floods. So I guess I would have to reiterate lately, because let's modify this search. Recent floods, and where is it flooding? Okay, well, recent floods. 200 dead, Nepal floods. Oh, Nepal just flooded. You know, shit, hell was just breaking loose in Nepal. That's the Guardian. North Carolina State. Rapid reaction to historic flooding follows Helene. Global climate catastrophes from heat waves, floods, wildfires, more cause, blah. You know, we just had another hurricane recently, and one last year that, you know, Ivan, that took out a bunch of, that, you know, was devastating. Country in the world is most affected by floods. One of the most flood and climate change affected countries in the world is Bangladesh, of course. Bangladesh. So, you know, they get that monsoon season. Oh, there's a typhoon going on right over here by Taiwan right now. Yippity skippity. So, you know, it's busting out around the world, y'all. And it sucks when people die. By the way, I didn't bring it up in the first part of the video, and I probably should have. I did. This is actually a restart. I had to kind of like retool for a second because there was some shit that I needed to expand on. September 19th of last week or so, September 19th, my mother passed away. She had been in a nursing home for, it would have been a year on the 26th that she had been in a nursing home. She was 93 years old, and I used to take her for walks several times a week when she was still living at home, and it was a slow grind. A shout out to Haven Hospice for being there. She ended up recently, her blood pressure started dropping. She had a UTI, a kidney stone. She was septic. She'd been in a nursing home for a while. And this is what happened. She was bedridden for a year, essentially. She was in physical rehab for a while. They discharged her from physical rehab because she plateaued. And this was the third time she'd been in physical rehab. She'd done all kinds of stuff. She had spinal stenosis. At one time, they were giving her shots of dexamethasone in her spine. And so a spinal tap, essentially. And the last time she had one, I actually helped put her on the table. And I think they made me do that for a reason. She did it how she wanted to do it, you know, and we got her. She lived with us for a while, and which is hard, you know, with somebody that, you know, you have to change them on a regular. You have to change. There's no greater honor in the world than taking care of a parent that needs your help. So, I was honored and blessed to have that experience, and you know, it was you know, she did it on her timetable, you know. And Magnolia Ridge Rehabilitation Center, it's a nursing home she was at. Their staff is great. They were great. Shout out to them too. That's where she was until she made the call in the middle of the night. They called me. She went to the ICU and with all these problems, and which just happens to old people that are bedridden. It just does. It's part of life. She had a UTI before, and this is what old people die from that are bedridden. They die from sepsis. It's just a reality. It's a fact of life. We know this, and so she had a kidney stone, and septic, and UTI, and she had some nodules on one side of her lung that were probably precancerous or cancerous, and on the other side, she also had a pulmonary embolism, and she had the chemical markers in her bloodstream that suggested that she probably had a heart attack as well. So at some point, and you know, the day before she went in, we had family in town, and I went to see her, and I spent 2 hours with her. You know, and she was introspective. Something was going on, I could tell. And I couldn't go and see her on that Monday because I had some stuff done around the house that needed to be fixed, and she ended up going to the ICU. So as my wife was sharing to others recently, and when she said it, I was like, oh yeah, that is heavy. So it was ICU on a Monday, hospice on a Wednesday, and she died that Thursday. And we buried her on that Saturday. And she will be missed. She was loved by everyone, by all. So it's because of her lifestyle choices. She, you know, in the 70s, she read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. She didn't just read the book, she took the course. And because she used to sell insurance way back when, and then she moved on to other stuff, but she kept these habits of, you know, remembering people's names, and she just adopted it, became her lifestyle, and so everybody loved her, you know, because she adopted it as it became part of her. You know, one of the things in that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is everybody thinks they're the good guy. So it's good to be able to look at, you know, put yourself in, walk a mile in their shoes, somebody else's shoes. Remember, some people let people have a bad day. Some people, like, you know, just give them a break. Somebody pops off at you, you know, they're sick and suffering, and they probably need your help, and they certainly need to have your compassion. But anyway, so this is happening, but, you know, there's a lot of shit going on right now. I've got, like, I don't know how many, 30 tabs open trying to show you this stuff. But my whole point is, going back to the doomsday thing here, they actually took this down for a while, and they don't really need to. He's saying more wildfires, more fires than you can count, more than you could possibly put out, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing about fires, in closing. When all the fuel burns up, there ain't nothing left to burn. So there was a fire in the 20s, I think, or the teens, 1919, somewhere back in there. The fire burned so hot that land is still barren today. Doesn't have forest growing on it. So, in order to have big bad fires, you have to have big bad fuel. And when you have a big bad fire that burns up all the big bad fuel, you can't have another fire there. You know, and furthermore, big bad fires like we've had, firestorms in some of these areas, gets rid of new growth, and plants produce heavy volatile organic compounds that are heat trapping. So interestingly, you know, when you get rid of trees, you know, the planet doesn't stay quite as warm in some places. And I probably shouldn't say that because some people get the wrong idea. And then also, well, you know, when you have firestorms that put that much debris up in the stratosphere, it causes global cooling. That's the whole nuclear winter thing. So this is why, you know, climate is a sawtooth-looking thing. It goes way hot, and then it goes way cold, and way hot, and way cold. It's not like a steady streamline thing. The shit's hitting the fan. Yeah, you put a bunch of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you're going to have precipitation. But be aware that it's not just about hurricanes. This is my, you know, the Armageddon line thing, you know. It also means that you can have, because you have the heat capacity of the oceans is high, it holds the heat, but the heat capacity of the land is much less, so it gets cold quicker. And then when you have, the sunlight is blocked earlier, then those temperatures drop quicker in the polar regions. And when those temperatures drop, you get precipitation because there's more water vapor in the atmosphere. So you get loads and loads of catastrophic amounts of snow. So it needs to be talked about, because sooner or later somebody's gonna, you know, you're probably seen this. Probably millions of people have already seen this, you know, because it came out, I don't know, 10 or so years ago or more. It was, 2014, I think they said. And it needs to be talked about, because when I talk about the Permian Triassic, only 30% of life, terrestrial life, survived. And that was the most devastating thing to happen to this planet, you know, ever. So, they say, you know, we'd be eking out some kind of dystopian life and all that kind of stuff. Well, not if we get our shit together. It's like, yeah, well, okay, no, we're not doing, because, I mean, if we can move to Mars, where the air pressure is like that of the stratosphere, and there's like perchlorate in the soil, you know, there's perchlorate in the soil in Mars, you know, on Mars. So you have these things, you know, but some people want to move to Mars. I'm like, that's dumb. Why don't we just stay here? You know, why don't we just turn, as Neil deGrasse Tyson says, why don't we just turn Earth back into Earth? So anyway, we can survive. We just kind of have to get our shit together and pull the fucking, get rid of the assholes. We can't have dumbasses running the fucking planet. I mean, that's all there is to it. We can't have rule by fucking dumbass, because this shit is hitting the fan. And so you're gonna have to have more flood control. You're gonna have to have flood control. That's all there is to it. Flood control. You're gonna have to do some forest management, so forest fires don't, you know. We're gonna have to take action. You can't just build any old where. You know what I mean? You gotta, you know, we gotta take some action. Gonna have to go nuclear. Gonna have to have nuclear power. That's all there is to it. But anyway, that's all I got for now. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. This has been News from the Can. Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry. Get to work. And you know, demographic collapse. Everybody's working themselves to death. You know, and that's a big thing. We're going to have some labor management and shit. Here, where is this? That's this right here. Iran apparently just launched a missile attack. That's right now. This started 100 minutes ago. Regional war has essentially begun as U.S. warns Iranian. Yeah. So there's shit going on, guys. And we're going to have to pivot towards infrastructure. And that's it. R. Crosby Lyles, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Don't take any wooden nickels. Get your survival gear together. Way to get a jackery or something so you can charge your phones, and extra food and medicine for you and your pets. Get a ham radio. Get little handheld radios from different people for not much money. I haven't super monetized this channel because it's a serious topic. You know what I mean? I don't sell products because I'm not in it for that. This channel is not designed for that. This channel is designed to tell people, yeah, it's on, and be prepared for whatever. You know what I mean? Which means look at what your flood zone situation is like, what your fire zone situation is like. You know what I mean? Take account, keep your eyes open, stay frosty, have tools. Citizens Band radio, ham radio, there are little handheld things, essential because in North Carolina, cell phone service was out, period. And it's going to go out in the mountains a lot of time anyway, so that's it. Do what you got to do. Love you guys. Stay cool. See you.